All right, so our second author, Steve Jenkins, is another writer of lots and lots of nonfiction books. He is a fabulous author, and I just found out when I was researching him today that he was born in Hickory, North Carolina, and went to college here in North Carolina before he moved off to other places for work and his family. So another North Carolina author. I always love it when I find somebody that's a good old North Carolinian. All right, so Steve Jenkins. The reason I was looking him up was because I wanted to see if he had actually climbed Mount Everest. Now, I couldn't find anything online, none of the biography resources that I could find on in the author website suggested that he had ever really climbed Mount Everest. I looked at the dedication page for Steve, and it just says, um, it's up here at the top. Not that one. It says right here for Jamie, Alec, and Paige, which I know Paige is his daughter and Alec might be his son. So I'm not seeing an author note or anything online that tells me that he actually has climbed Mount Everest. So, whereas Jean Craighead George wrote about a topic that is ordinary, commonplace, based on her experiences, I'm going to think that this book is going to be based more on Steve Jenkins' research of a topic. So maybe he hasn't climbed Mount Everest himself, but he did a lot of research about other people who may have climbed it. Listen to his the way he writes about his book. Okay, Mount Everest. Its summit is the highest point on Earth, 5.5 miles above sea level. For thousands of years, the mountain has been a sacred place for those who live in its shadow. The rest of the world wasn't really aware of the mountain until about 180 years ago. Ever since that time, climbers, scientists, and adventurers have been fascinated by this peak. Many have tried to climb it. Some have succeeded, but many more have failed. Some have died trying. Mount Everest is a place of great beauty, adventure, and danger. If you ever want to climb it, here are a few things to think about. So I'm going to skip ahead right here to this part right here, flying in. Most expeditions to the Himalayas begin with a plane flight to Kathmandu, the capital city of Nepal. Passenger jets cruise at about the same altitude as Everest's summit. So the jets are about as high up in the air as the summit of the mountain. Kathmandu. When you arrive in this bustling capital city of Nepal, you'll collect your gear, meet your guides, and pay for your climbing permit. If you're lucky, you'll have time to pay a visit to the Monkey Temple, one of the many Buddhist religious sites in the city. Sherpas and other climbers often make offerings here before beginning an expedition. Kathmandu is also where you'll begin the long trek to Everest. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. Whenever I read this, it sort of makes me have the feeling that maybe he was there. The way he describes seeing the sights and what you do when you get there and the flight to get there makes me think, he might have done this before. So we're not really sure. We don't have enough information about that, but it kind of sounds like it. He's really trying to make that emotional connection to you too, because we've all been on a vacation somewhere. And so we all have had that experience of traveling to get somewhere and seeing a new place for the very first time. Even if it's not somewhere as exotic as Kathmandu, maybe we're just taking a trip to the beach, but there's always that expectation of, ooh, this is somewhere new that I've never been before. And so that's having a good connection to your audience. I also like some of this language that he's doing because as a nonfiction writer in our lesson yesterday with the word detectives, You want to think about words that will pop up in your text. Words like your climbing permit, your guides, the trek to Everest, okay, and gear. Like, so you want to think about some domain specific or topic specific vocabulary that you might include if you were writing about this topic. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. First to the top. The British expedition of 1921 was the first organized attempt to climb Mount Everest. Sickness and exhaustion kept the climbers from reaching the top, but they did discover a route to the summit. Many attempts by climbers of different nationalities followed, but no one succeeded until May 29, 1953, when Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay reached the summit. Hillary was from New Zealand, and Tenzing Norgay was a Sherpa from Nepal. Both men became international heroes. I'm going to come over here because it's there. In 1924, British climbers George Mallory and Andrew Irvine attempted to climb Mount Everest and were last seen climbing just below the summit. No one knows if they reached the top before they disappeared. When asked why he wanted to climb the mountain, Mallory gave his famous reply, because it's there. The greatest climber. In 1980, Australian climber Reinhold Messner accomplished what was considered an impossible feat. He climbed Mount Everest alone without any bottled oxygen. Messner was also the first to climb all of the 14 peaks in the world that are higher than 8,000 meters, or 26,247 feet. He is considered by many to be the greatest mountaineer of all time. So on this page, I feel like Steve Jenkins had to do a lot of research. He probably had some questions like, who is the greatest climber? Who is the greatest mountain climber in the world? Who were the first to climb up to the summit? What are some other famous people that tried to? So he probably asked a lot of questions, and then he went to a lot of sources to read and gather information about his topic. Now, if Steve Jenkins was not passionate about this topic, I don't think he would have made this much progress in this work. So he must have been pretty amazed by the things that he read online to be able to include them all in this one book. I'm skipping ahead a little bit more. Here we go. All right, we're going to read this part right here. Up and down. At 29,000 feet, there is only 1/3 as much oxygen as at sea level. In fact, if someone at sea level were suddenly transported to the top of Mount Everest, he or she would die within a few minutes from lack of oxygen. To prepare for the extremely thin air, you must make several round trips from base camp to higher and higher points on the mountain, sometimes spending the night before starting back down. Staying for increasing periods of time high on the mountain helps you from getting altitude sickness on summit day. And so again, that's probably something that was super fascinating when he's doing his research. You just can't climb straight to the top. You have to climb a little, stop a little, climb a little, then go back down, climb a little further, go back down. And spending the night along the way in these really harsh conditions. Okay, so we've looked at two different authors today, and we have thought about how these authors are very passionate about their topics. Do you have things that you're passionate about the way Steve Jenkins is passionate about Mount Everest, or the way Gene Craighead George is passionate about pets? What are you fascinated about? What do you ask questions about? What topics do you spend a lot of time thinking about? What activities do you do often? So, in your writer's notebook today, I'm going to have you explore that idea. So, go to the next page and I will help you decide what to put in your writer's notebook today for this lesson.